guys, Christinablackfeather here, and just ready for work and thought I would just record really quick. Um, I had some thoughts. I was watching some vegan and anti-vegan stuff again, and then, of course, past comments as well that I've had on my own channel. I just thought I would kind of talk a little bit about my thoughts on uh, this environmental crisis that we're actually in. Um, First off, we are having evidence of climate change happening. I mean, you can't really say global warming, that's an old term. We're finding that it is a change in the climate. So you're getting more bizarre weather. Climate is not just your weather from one day to the next, it is your overall what it is pretty much yearly. Like in Minnesota, we'll have hard winters, and then we have really hot summers, mild spring and fall. Those are getting shorter and shorter. We've had bizarre weather at all sorts of times in the last few years, but that is our climate overall. That is not the localized weather per week. So I thought I'd make that clear in the first place, because there are people out there who like to try and say, well, you can't predict the weather from one day to the next. And it's like, no, we're not talking about the weather from one day to the next. So that said, a lot of vegans have that, like Earthling Ed and Joey Carbstrong and stuff are going on, and this Greta Thunberg going on the climate crisis itself, and that animal production is a big cause of it. And one thing that they're kind of ignoring is just general pollution overall. We can only tackle one problem at a time. And currently, things like the EPA being weakened in the United States, we're having now that they can drill in the Boundary Waters canoe area. National parks are becoming sources for mining and drilling and things like that. So we're decreasing our natural areas and increasing the pollutive activity. This also, if the EPA is continued to be deregulated and things like that, what we're going to run into is that more situations like in my local area, with less than a mile from my house, we had one plant that they had pretty much faked all the readings on their gauges and stuff, and were spewing lead and other toxins into the atmosphere, so our whole neighborhood would be a haze. And you think of what's going on in cities like Beijing, where people are having to walk around with masks on because they cannot breathe. The air is that polluted. Cars are still, even though they'll meet emission standards, they are still spewing things out. So we need to be able to promote more of non-pollutive electricity and vehicles and things like that, going more with electric cars, being able to increase solar, wind, things like that. I mean, there's so many buildings with flat roofs that don't have anything happening on them. Fill them with solar panels. Dig back into the grid with that energy you're producing, and lower the cost for everybody else, and lower the amount of emissions from plants and everything for everybody else. These are real things that we could be tackling right now. As far as animal production and meat and everything else, vegans are kind of going about this the wrong way. That just because a cow farts does not mean that that's going to really significantly increase a huge amount of pollution. With the warming that we have, we're having methane released from lakes in Russia. That wasn't there before because the material didn't rot when it froze in Siberia. That stuff is coming to the surface now. We have I mean, yeah, there's a lot of methane being produced and stuff, but that is not the only cause. We have, as I said, we have vehicles. We have poor house construction, things like that. I mean, there's just all sorts of things that are causing us problems. And so meat production isn't it. And then if you take it a step further, you have other health issues going on besides that are dietary related. And it's not veganism being the cure. It's not carnivore being the cure. Food is money. It's money to these big companies. We literally are cash cows. We make money for these companies because we have to eat. And there's a whole lot of humanity that needs to eat. So these companies are making bucks. And they're cutting corners in a lot of cases. And the stuff that is the most affordable to eat is often not the best thing for you and not produced in the healthiest manner possible between all the oils and the preservatives and things like that. Vegans should be taking this a step at a time as far as teaching people how to cook, teaching people how to cook from scratch, working on the environment first. But what they're doing is they're taking something, it's not a health diet. And people like Vegan Gains are trying to promote that it is a health diet. And he's always citing his studies. You know, all-cause mortality is lower among vegans. No, it's not. I just went through an article on Medscape on exactly that, and no, it isn't. It is healthier. You're going to live longer and, you know, probably be better if you have the lower cholesterol and everything. But it's all-cause mortality. No, veganism does not affect that. It does affect the incidence of diabetes by lowering it. So there's where that works. But as trying to promote it on a health level is not really it. It is a diet about ethics and the person's own morality. So we have people like Joey Carbstrong again, and Vegan Gains, and Earthling Ed and stuff, who are trying to push everybody to become vegan. Saying that we have to do this for the planet, and we have to do this, and we have to do that. They're pushing a religion on everybody. Veganism should be about personal choice. As I said, I was relieved in some respects. I was going to get an entire pig butchered, and it turned out my friend and his wife screwed everything up. They didn't realize that one was already sold, so they sold all three. But what had been a relief for me is I had been out giving these pigs marshmallows for treats, just eating them right out of my hand. Petting piggies, dirty and dirt and everything, mud and everything. It was bothering me on a level that it didn't, from this farm girl's perspective way back in the day, you know, that I was ordering this animal that I hand fed like this to be killed. Now, mind you, when it comes to surviving, when it comes to if we have no other recourse, if we had our own hobby farm, anything like that, I'd be going with chickens for eggs first, and goats for milk and stuff, and making cheese. And this is part of why I support local farmers as well that do this. But that's the route that I would probably go. And I'm sorry, if a rooster's going to be nasty and start attacking people, he's hitting the cooking pot, you know. But it's still the thought that I'm contributing to the death of another being sometimes does bother me more often than not. And maybe it's just because I'm changing that way when I get older. I mean, my mother's almost Buddhist in as far as she avoids trying to step on an ant on the sidewalk, you know, and she'll hold spiders in her hand and pet them, and I mean, just all sorts of things like that. I'm not that far. But I maybe it's a point where you get older and you kind of start thinking about these things in a little different light. And my own health aside, the fact that I have to keep my cholesterol under control and all of that, then, you know, it's a matter of avoiding the really bad oils and avoiding the saturated fats and, you know, cholesterol producing things. Because while my husband had to get prescribed eggs to be able to get his cholesterol up, I'm one of those lucky people that even if I don't have any animal foods whatsoever, my cholesterol stays up without medication. So yeah, yay genetics, you know. But it's still, for me, this is a personal decision. And even then, I still have meat once or twice a week. We're eating on leftovers. I made up meat. We're still eating on leftovers. Hubby did the same thing. I've had hamburger the last few days. We've had pulled pork and stuff. It's what was on sale. It was what was cheap. And I threw stuff in the crock pot, and we've been just pulling things out of the fridge and out of the freezer, and we have our meals. Sometimes you got to do what you got to do, you know. But there's other instances, if I'm able to make that choice and it isn't down to finances or down to what's on sale or something like that, I will, you know, and I'm not forcing my decision on him. This is a decision of what I put into my own mouth. And I'll, you know, I'm learning to do more vegan side dishes and things like that too, just to expand both of us on our diet and get both of us healthier. But it's still, that's my decision, not his, not my children's, not the neighbor down the street. This is about myself, and this is what it should be about for each person. What they do diet-wise or what they do religious-wise is their own decision. It should not be forced on by somebody else. This includes trying to convert other people, whether it's to veganism, whether it's to Christianity or Islam or something else. And you notice I tacked that into the same religious category. Because again, it's dealing with a person's own morals, it's dealing with their own ethics, and that is a religious issue. It is not a dietary issue. So I'm trying to reach some people that are having these thoughts that everybody has to go one way. Think about what you are doing. If you're one of those that gets really, really irritated when somebody's forcing their religion on you or telling you you have to convert so you don't go to hell and all of this stuff, yet you're going to the next person and telling them that they have to become vegan because they're destroying the planet and all of this. So destroying the planet, you think about this. You get irritated when you're told you're going to hell. Well, they're having meat, they're destroying the planet, and you're pushing your ideal on them. It is a religious ideal, and you're doing the same thing that irritates you. So that's it. I got to get going for work, so I just had to pipe up and rant a little bit. So I guess that's my vlog for the day. So blessed be everybody. Have a great night.